I should have been back at the hotel hours ago, but the chaotic London traffic during the Olympic summer trapped me longer than expected. It was dark when I finally reached my stop. The stifling heat of the city had given way to a damp chill that made me clutch my coat tighter against my body. When I finally reached the hotel entrance, something felt off. The lobby was quieter than usual, the always friendly receptionist was absent, and the security guard seemed distracted, fixated on something out of my sight. Something inside me screamed to turn around, run, and not look back, but I ignored it. The elevator seemed to take an eternity to reach my floor. When the doors finally opened, I rushed out, almost running down the empty, dimly lit corridor. The air carried a strange smell, a mix of mold and something metallic, like blood. I reached my room. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but when I reached into my pocket for the key, I realized it was already unlocked. I was certain I had locked the door when I left. I slowly pushed the door open, trying to control my breathing. The room was dark, the only light coming from the street through the partially open window. I stepped in cautiously. At that moment, the bathroom light flicked on by itself, casting a harsh glare over the mess scattered on the floor. My suitcase was overturned, clothes strewn about as if someone had rifled through it. I took a few hesitant steps, and that's when I saw it on the bathroom mirror, written in red lipstick, "You are being watched." My first instinct was to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. My body went into survival mode, every fiber of my being screaming to get out of there. With trembling hands, I searched for more clues, trying to understand what was happening. That's when I found the papers. Little pieces of paper with handwritten messages scattered around the room. "I know what you did. You are not safe. I am watching you." Each message sent a new wave of terror through my body. I tried calling the front desk, but the phone was dead. Damn it. I looked around, desperate for some way out of this. What do I do now? Running seemed like the only option, but my legs were paralyzed with fear. I stood there in the middle of the room, feeling the presence of something or someone I couldn't see but was clearly there, savoring every moment. My mind spun as I stared at those grotesque words on the mirror, "You are being watched." I knew I couldn't let fear take over. I needed to understand what was happening. Who had done this? And why? I thought about all the people I had met during the Olympic coverage, trying to make sense of it, but nothing added up. I continued to search the room, finding more pieces of paper in strange places, inside my suitcase, under the pillow, even inside the minibar. Each message was more disturbing than the last. Staying in the room was clearly a bad idea. I remembered the hotel had security cameras. Maybe they could reveal who had entered my room. I left the room and ran down to the reception. The corridor seemed longer than usual. When I got there, I found the night receptionist. I quickly explained what had happened, showing one of the messages I had brought with me. He looked at me with a mix of disbelief and concern, and soon called the security guard. They took me to the monitoring room, where I could see the security footage. My hands were sweating as the guard reviewed the images from the afternoon and evening. Then, suddenly, there he was. A tall, thin man, wearing a low hat to hide his face, entering my room. The receptionist and the security guard exchanged surprised looks. "I know that guy," said the receptionist. "He's been here a few times, always asking about you." My stomach twisted. "Who is he?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "John," the receptionist replied. "He said he was your coworker." John. My former coworker, who always seemed a bit strange. I never thought he would be capable of something like this. Panic mixed with a growing rage. How dare he? The police were called immediately, and they arrived at the hotel shortly after. I explained everything again, showing the messages and the camera footage. They assured me they would do everything possible to find him and that I should stay safe in the hotel while the investigation continued. But how could I feel safe after all this? Back in my room, even with the hotel's reinforced security, the feeling of being watched didn't go away. Every little noise made me jump, every shadow seemed like someone about to appear. I tried to sleep, but sleep wouldn't come. I knew John was out there, and the thought tormented me. The messages, the footage, everything pointed to an obsession I had never noticed. I spent the following days working with the police, providing details about John, trying to remember anything that could help track him down. Each day that passed without news, the tension grew, and fear turned into paranoia. I started noticing stares in the streets, shadows following me. Was he watching me even now? One night, the phone in my room rang. The sudden sound made me jump, my heart racing. I answered, hoping to hear the reassuring voice of a police officer. Instead, a raspy voice whispered on the other end, "Emily, you don't need to be afraid." It was him. John. I ran to the reception, demanding security, but the feeling of safety was an illusion. The police were called again, and the search for John intensified. However, he always seemed to be one step ahead. The authorities did their best, but I knew he was circling me, slowly closing in. On a cold early morning, I woke to a noise in the corridor. The clock read 3:15 a.m. The sound of slow, heavy footsteps was approaching my room. I got up silently, grabbing a chair to wedge against the door. The steps stopped outside. Then, 3 soft knocks on the door. "Emily, open the door," John's voice whispered. He was there, on the other side. My mind wrestled between opening the door to confront him and escaping through the window. I grabbed my cell phone, but there was no signal. Of course, why would it be different? As I searched for an exit, the knocking intensified. "You can't escape from me, Emily." The voice was closer, almost inside my head. I looked at the window, the only possible escape. I ran to it, trying to open it, but it was stuck. Suddenly, the door began to give way. With a final effort, I managed to open the window and squeeze out, awkwardly landing on the narrow ledge of the building. The fall would be painful, but not fatal. As I pondered my next move, the door finally gave in. John entered the room, his eyes gleaming with excitement as he saw me at the window. "You have nowhere to go," he murmured. With no more time to think, I jumped. For a moment, everything went silent. The impact was brutal, pain exploding through my body. But I was alive. I got up with difficulty, ignoring the pain. I looked up, expecting to see John following me, but he wasn't there. I ran to the hotel lobby, screaming for help. The reception was alerted, and the police arrived quickly, searching the room and the surroundings. But John had vanished, like a ghost. No one knew how he disappeared so quickly. Even with the police reinforcing security, the feeling of being watched never left. Every shadow, every noise, reminded me that John could be there, lurking, waiting for the right moment to finish what he started. Sign up to get this boost. New stories every day.